Hey YouTube, how's it going? It's Matt with Olympus Reptiles. Today we're going to do a little bit different video. We're going to show you two different kinds of substrate, how it looks with the snakes, and talk about some of the pros and cons and when it may be best for you. What we have here is Aspen first. Aspen's what we started with. You can see it's just a fine mulch aspen, And this works really well. I mean, this is a good substrate. It holds moisture pretty decent. It is susceptible to molding. Pretty easy to spot clean. Odor control could be better. But in a tub system, this gets the job done moisture-wise. I mean, this is dry. I just put it in here to show it off what it looks like. Sometimes when you buy cheap, you do get chunks like this. You gotta pick through and get out. But that was kind of the stuff we were using originally. It was this Aspen. And it seems to do a pretty good job. But like I say, definitely got some mold issues, things like that. We tried reptichip and Pro Coco, the big brands of the coconut, of the chunky coconut husk, which is what this is. So far, we really like this. It tends to hold moisture better than Aspen. It doesn't mold nearly as bad as the Aspen. We've already seen some better shedding. We have one rack in particular, the tubs fit really tight, so when you slide them, it tends to slosh a little bit of water, and the front of the tub would always look really disgusting with Aspen, no matter how much I cleaned it. Don't have that with the coconut. And I would say, for our application, coconut works best. I'll probably still use some Aspen on like hatchlings because it's easy just to throw out and replace and things like that. But for all of our adults, we're switching to coconut. And I'll show you on some of the snakes kind of the difference we have. This is one, and we recently switched over to coconut. If you want to come over here. This is our killer bee. And you can see it holds moisture really nicely, but there's no mold in that tub at all, and it does well with the heat. Plus, I think she just looks good on it. And there's something to be said if your snake's looking good, y'all want to open the tub and see something that looks good, right? I know I do. Verse, here's one that's still on Aspen. We were doing both for a while to kind of get an idea of what we liked better. Well, this doesn't look bad. It doesn't stay in place as well. We've had a few bad sheds on Aspen because it's hard to keep the humidity up. And you can see, look in the tub here. See how dry that is on my hand? I get nothing here. Look at that. But I can pick that up and there's no water in my hand. Why that's important is that means my humidity on this coconut is going to stay nice and high, but the snake's not laying on directly wet substrate and isn't going to get any form of scale rot. You're seeing a little pink in there now. That's because she just recently, literally just shed in the way she's laying. But you end up with a nice, healthy, although a little bit wobbly spider there. There's your spider wobble. Snake on that. We can go through, we put several of them on it. Like when you run Aspen, this is what I mean. So you can still spot clean the Aspen. We had a little bit of a poop there we can clean up. But you can see how it looks when it gets wet. And I'll have to continually work on this cage all the time. I'm not going to do much with it now because she's in shed, so I want it to be moist. But that wouldn't be a problem in this cage up here, which has got our lesser girl in it. This is going to stay moist. Look. And again, look at the humidity there. I'm going to have great sheds in here. No worries whatsoever. Just a wonderful, different substrate. The only concern I have with this, and one of the reasons why I'm not putting my hatchlings on it, is I haven't heard of it being a problem, but it does concern me how big these chunks are. And my concern would be that a baby would get this on a food item, swallow a chunk like that, even a chunk like this, and have a risk of impaction. Everybody I've talked to, including some of the owners of the companies that make this stuff, that started it, never had a problem. I shouldn't say make it, but brand it, and started selling it after some trials. They've never had that problem. So it was probably just me being overly cautious, but I'm going to be overly cautious. But you can just kind of look and see at every one that we put that coconut in, how well our humidity is doing. All of them. It's just rock solid on the front of that cage. And one great example why I like it is this girl right here. She actually had a rough shed on Aspen. And after they shed is typically when I throw the substrate away and clean the entire tub. So she'd had a rough shed. We'd given her a bath, and that got a lot of it out. There was still some stuck on there. we switched her to coconut. I came down the next day to give her a bath again. I found the rest of the shed in the tub, and she got it off on her own. Came out perfect. So that right there made me a believer for how well they're going to shed in this stuff, because I did not expect that on how stuck that was. In our male tubs, we're not having any of the mold issues we were once having with this stuff here. Another boy wanted to shed, I do believe. Yeah, look at that. It is the season. You can see how tight those fit. So, I also think if you're running a glass aquarium, like if you have one snake, this is going to hold your humidity much better than this. So, I'm a believer in that product right there now. I can tell you we're switching our collection to it. I'm not saying you should, but if you haven't tried it, it's worth giving a look and seeing if it works for you. Any questions, Kurt?
Is there a price difference between these two different substrates?
There is. You know, the reptichip, you buy from local people, usually like at reptile shows. You go online, you can find it. I know Tallgrass Reptiles, for example. I'm going to give them a shout out. They're our supplier. That's who we buy from. If you go on their website, hopefully they don't mind me, putting their business out there. I'm sure they won't. They sell this for $15 a bag. And now a bag will do quite a bit. We did one bag, and we did all of these tubs. All these male tubs here. You can see how thick we put it in there. And one bag did that, plus a couple adult tubs, or adult female tubs. So, you get quite a bit of mileage out of one bag because it expands so much. The Aspen is probably about $13 or $14 a bag at a big box store. And I will tell you, you get a lot more Aspen in a bag than you do reptichip. However, if this is going to mold and turn nasty and you're going to be throwing it away and changing it more often, you're going to get a lot more mileage out of this. Now, which one's going to last you longer in the long term? I haven't done enough testing to figure that out. And for me, it really doesn't matter. I want what my animals do the best on and look the best on. And so far, for me, that's this. Any other questions?
Yes. Is there any substrate you should stay away from?
Absolutely. Don't just go and get any old shredded wood that looks like this. If you get pine or some of those other woods, they're toxic. The only shredded woods I would recommend, and I'm not calling coconut a wood because it's like the actual coconuts, would be aspen and cypress. You can use cypress as well, but you need to stay away from things like pine and cedar. They can kill your snake. They're toxic to reptiles. If they're on them all the time, they crawl on there, that seeps in and put the dead snake, all because you went a little bit cheap on the substrate. So make sure and pay attention. That is 100% aspen, not a mix or anything like that, because pine and cedar, no bueno. Any other questions?
Nope, I think that's all.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. And again, this is really quick, reptichip versus aspen. Do whatever you want. It's your snakes, but this is my favorite. All right, guys, thanks a lot.